Melissa Carter never believed in omens. At 36, her life was built on spreadsheets, schedules, and certainty. She had an MBA from a state university, a 14-year-old son named Ethan who lived in soccer cleats and hoodies, and a solid management position at a regional retail chain in suburban Illinois. Melissa trusted data, not destiny. Logic, not luck. So when she stepped out of a Kroger parking lot just before sunset, balancing 2 heavy grocery bags against her hips, the last thing she expected was something she couldn't explain. September still felt like summer that year. The air was warm, the sky stretched wide and honey-colored, cicadas buzzing lazily from the trees lining the lot. Melissa was in a hurry. Ethan would be back from practice in 30 minutes, and a teenage boy with an empty stomach was a force of nature. Ground beef for burgers. Potatoes. Salad greens. She mentally mapped the evening like a checklist. She adjusted the bags, and heard the unmistakable clatter of metal on concrete. Keys. Melissa turned just in time to see them skidding across the pavement. "Ma'am, wait." The voice came from behind her. A woman was already bending down to pick them up. Melissa's shoulders tensed automatically. The woman wore a flowing, brightly patterned skirt and a worn leather jacket. Long dark hair, heavy rings on her fingers, layered gold necklaces catching the fading light. A fortune teller. Or something close enough. They were common near shopping centers, and Melissa's experience with them usually involved aggressive palm-reading pitches and awkward refusals. "Here," the woman said, holding out the keys. "Thanks," Melissa replied, already bracing for the pitch. But it didn't come. Instead, the woman froze. Her fingers tightened around the keyring. Her expression shifted, eyes narrowing, mouth pressing into a thin line, like someone who had just seen something deeply wrong. Melissa frowned. "Is something wrong?" The woman looked up slowly, studying her face as if committing it to memory. "Listen carefully," she said, her voice low, steady, accented in a way Melissa couldn't place. "Tonight, do not go home." Melissa let out a short laugh. "Excuse me?" "And tomorrow morning," the woman continued, ignoring her reaction, "go to your husband's workplace. Early. You must see it with your own eyes." Melissa shook her head, half amused, half annoyed. "Here it is." "Look, I don't believe in this stuff," she said, reaching for the keys. "But thank you for picking them up." The woman didn't let go right away. Her gaze softened, not greedy, not dramatic, but something close to pity. "I don't charge," she said quietly. "I'm telling you because I saw it. Believe me or don't. But remember my words." Melissa pulled the keys free and opened her wallet. She handed over a $20 bill, more out of courtesy than belief. "Have a good evening," she said firmly. The woman accepted the money absently. "You won't believe," she replied. "Not yet. But tomorrow, you will." Melissa walked away, heels clicking sharply against the pavement, refusing to look back until she reached her car. In the rearview mirror, she saw the woman still standing by the entrance, watching her with an unreadable expression before turning and disappearing between parked cars. "Street theater," Melissa muttered, starting the engine. "Well-rehearsed nonsense." The radio came on. She hummed along, already mentally back in her kitchen. Her husband, Daniel, was supposed to be home by 8. Logistics consulting, new contracts, endless meetings. They'd been married 17 years. College sweethearts. Built everything together, career, home, family. It wasn't passion anymore. It was stability. Respect. Routine. And Melissa believed that was enough. Their townhouse sat on a quiet cul-de-sac, 3 bedrooms, recently renovated, comfortable but unpretentious. As she climbed the steps to the front door, a strange hesitation crept in. "Don't go home." The woman's words echoed uninvited. Melissa exhaled sharply. "Get a grip." She unlocked the door. The apartment was quiet. Ethan wasn't home yet. Daniel's shoes weren't by the door. Then she saw it. A silk scarf. Hanging casually on the coat rack. Not hers. It was elegant, teal and gold, soft, expensive. Feminine in a way that couldn't be mistaken. And it carried a faint, unfamiliar perfume. Light. Sweet. Young. Melissa set the grocery bags down slowly. Her heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. Instead, something inside her went very still. She pulled out her phone and took photos. Close-ups. Wide shots. The scarf against the hallway wall. The timestamp glowing clearly on the screen. Evidence. Cold, undeniable evidence. From somewhere deep inside her memory, the woman's voice returned. Tomorrow morning. Go to your husband's workplace. Melissa stared at the scarf, her reflection faintly visible in the hallway mirror. And for the first time in her carefully structured life, she didn't dismiss the warning. Melissa didn't confront Daniel that night. She cooked dinner. Helped Ethan with homework. Listened to her husband talk about freight routes and client calls as if nothing in the world had shifted off its axis. She watched him. Not with suspicion, but with study. The way one observes a system that has begun to fail. Daniel looked the same. Same calm voice. Same casual kiss on her cheek. Same. No nervous glances. No new cologne. No sudden affection. Which somehow made everything worse. When Ethan finally went to his room, Melissa spoke evenly. I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight. Headache. Daniel barely looked up from his laptop. Okay. Let me know if you need anything. She lay awake in the dark, phone glowing softly in her hand, the photo of the scarf enlarged on the screen. Expensive. Designer. Not something you forget accidentally. Tomorrow morning, she reminded herself. Go to his workplace. By 6 a.m., the decision had hardened into certainty. Daniel left early, like always. Melissa waited 10 minutes. Then she got dressed, dark jeans, neutral sweater, hair pulled back tight. She wanted to look invisible. Unremarkable. She drove to her own office first, requested a week off for family reasons, signed the form, and walked straight back out. Then she headed across town. Daniel's firm operated out of a low, glass-fronted business complex near the interstate. Logistics, warehousing, transport coordination, unromantic, efficient. Melissa had been there before. She knew the parking patterns. She parked with a clear view of the entrance. 8:42 a.m. Her pulse was steady. Her hands were not shaking. At 8:47, Daniel's gray Toyota pulled in. He parked. Cut the engine. And stayed inside. A minute passed. 2. Melissa lifted her phone and zoomed in. Her breath left her body in a slow, silent exhale. Daniel wasn't alone. A young woman sat beside him. Long dark hair. Smooth skin. Early 20s at most. She leaned toward him, laughing, her hand resting lightly on his chest. Then they kissed. Not a quick goodbye. Not something that could be explained away. It was intimate. Familiar. Unashamed. Melissa pressed record. She filmed everything, the way his arm wrapped around her shoulders, the way she threaded her fingers through his hair, the way they lingered like time belonged only to them. When the woman stepped out of the car, Melissa captured her clearly. Stylish coat. Confident walk. Youth. She watched the girl get into a waiting rideshare and drive off. Daniel stood for a moment, smiling at his phone. Then he walked into the building like a man heading into an ordinary workday. Melissa lowered the phone. She felt no tears. No shock. Only a precise, almost clinical clarity. She followed the rideshare at a distance. Downtown. Modern apartment complex. Secure entrance. Melissa photographed the building. Then she went home. By noon, she had everything uploaded, videos, photos, timestamps, backed up twice. Cloud and flash drive. She printed the clearest images and slipped them into a folder. Next, she opened social media. Daniel's profile was dull. Business posts. Industry articles. Minimal personal life. She scrolled through his contacts. And then she saw her. Sophie Reynolds. 20. Business management student. Photography hobby. Travel selfies. And under family. Michael Reynolds, father. Michael Reynolds. Daniel's business partner. Melissa leaned back in her chair. The room felt suddenly very quiet. This wasn't just an affair. It was a catastrophe waiting to explode. She closed the laptop and stared at the wall. The silk scarf. The parking lot. The warning. Tomorrow morning, the woman had said. You must see it yourself. Melissa reached for her phone and found Michael's number. They'd exchanged contacts once, years ago, at a corporate dinner. She typed carefully. Michael, this is Melissa Carter. I need to speak with you privately about something urgent involving Daniel and your family. Could we meet today? She sent it. 5 minutes later, her phone vibrated. Is everything all right? I can meet at 6 p.m. at Central Coffee. Melissa stared at the message. No, she whispered. Everything is not all right. She replied. 6 p.m. works. Thank you. She closed her eyes. The next step would change everything. Melissa arrived at Central Coffee 10 minutes early. The cafe sat on a corner downtown, all brick and glass, warm light spilling onto the sidewalk. Inside, the smell of espresso and toasted pastries mixed with low jazz and muted conversation. It was the kind of place people chose for serious talks, quiet, neutral, discreet. She ordered a double espresso and took a seat in the back, her folder resting on the chair beside her. Her posture was straight. Composed. If someone looked closely, they might notice the tension in her jaw, but no one did. At exactly 6 o'clock, Michael Reynolds walked in. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Early 40s. The kind of man who looked comfortable making decisions that affected dozens of people. Salt and pepper hair, tailored jacket, confident stride. Melissa, he said, extending a hand. Thank you for meeting me. Thank you for coming, she replied, shaking it firmly. They sat. Michael studied her face for a moment. Your message sounded serious. It is. Melissa opened the folder without ceremony and slid the first photograph across the table. Daniel. Sophie. In the car. Michael picked it up. His expression didn't change, but something hardened behind his eyes. This was taken this morning, Melissa said evenly. Outside your office. 8:47 a.m. She placed the next photo down. Then another. Sophie stepping out of the car. Daniel watching her leave. Silence settled between them. Michael's jaw tightened. He set the photos down slowly, aligning their edges with deliberate care. How long? He asked. I don't know exactly, Melissa replied. At least 4 months. She placed the silk scarf on the table. Michael stared at it. That belongs to my daughter, he said quietly. I bought it for her in New York. I found it in my hallway, Melissa replied. For the first time, Michael closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the calm professionalism was gone. What remained was controlled fury, the kind that didn't need to raise its voice. Did Sophie know he was married? I believe he told her we were separating, Melissa said. We weren't. Michael exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over his face. I trusted him, he said. With my business. With my family. That's why I came to you, Melissa said. Not to Sophie. She's young. In love. She'll defend him if I confront her directly. Michael nodded slowly. You're right. He looked up. What do you want from me? I want you to protect your daughter, Melissa said. Show her the truth. End this before it destroys her. And you? I've already contacted an attorney, Melissa replied. I'm filing for divorce. Michael leaned back in his chair. Daniel crossed a line he can't come back from, he said. Personally and professionally. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Michael spoke again. I will speak to Sophie tonight. She will see these photos. And this scarf. Melissa nodded. There's one more thing, she said, unlocking her phone. She pulled up a short video, Daniel at a family dinner weeks earlier, smiling as he toasted my wife and son. Michael watched it in silence. When it ended, he didn't speak right away. Finally, he said, this ends now. That night, Daniel came home restless. He paced. Checked his phone repeatedly. Barely touched his food. Melissa watched him from across the table, her expression unreadable. 3 days later, Michael called. Sophie knows, he said. She blocked him everywhere. She's devastated, but she understands now. Melissa closed her eyes briefly. I'm sorry it hurt her. She's not blaming you, Michael replied. She knows who lied. He paused. I'm dissolving the partnership with Daniel. Melissa inhaled slowly. That's a big decision. I won't build a future with a man who betrays the people closest to him, Michael said. We'll split assets. Clean break. When the call ended, Melissa sat alone in the quiet kitchen. Everything was in motion now. That evening, Daniel poured himself a drink and spoke into the silence. Michael wants out, he said hoarsely. I don't understand why. Melissa sliced vegetables with steady hands. Sometimes, she said calmly, people find out who you really are. Daniel looked at her then, really looked. And for the first time, fear flickered across his face. The next morning, Daniel didn't kiss Melissa goodbye. He barely spoke. He dressed in silence, movements sharp and restless, like a man trying to outrun something already inside the room. When the front door closed, the house felt lighter and emptier. Melissa waited until Ethan left for school. Then she opened the folder. Birth certificates. Mortgage papers. Bank statements. Investment accounts. 17 years of shared life reduced to paper and numbers. She slid everything into a clean binder and drove straight to the attorney's office. Laura Bennett was calm, precise, unflinching. You have solid evidence, she said after reviewing the photos and video. Infidelity won't change asset division in this state, but it strengthens your negotiating position. Especially if he wants things quiet. I want the house, Melissa said. And primary custody. Laura nodded. Given your son's age, his preference will matter. We'll file this week. When Melissa signed the papers, the pen felt heavier than it should have. There was no ceremony. No dramatic music. Just ink drying on a page. That evening, Daniel came home pale. They're splitting the company, he said flatly, pouring whiskey with an unsteady hand. Michael wants a clean break. 50-50 assets. I lose the main contracts. The office. Melissa didn't look up from the counter. I'm sorry. He laughed once, short, bitter. Are you? She turned to face him. I'm done lying, Daniel. To you or myself. Silence stretched between them. I made a mistake, he said finally. I got lost. I didn't mean for it to go this far. You didn't trip, Melissa replied. You chose. That night, she slept in the bedroom. Daniel took the couch. 3 days later, the court notice arrived. Daniel read it standing in the kitchen, hands shaking. You filed, he whispered. Yes. You didn't even talk to me. I did, Melissa said calmly. You just weren't listening then. He sank into a chair, face in his hands. I'll fix this, he said. I'll end it. Therapy. Whatever you want. You already ended it, she replied. I'm just making it official. The confrontation came on Friday. Ethan was sent to his room. The house felt too small for the truth. Melissa placed her phone on the table and opened the photo. Daniel with Sophie. He went gray. You followed me? I saw you, Melissa said. That's the difference. Tears formed. Excuses tried to surface. She cut them down with silence. I want the house, she said. Ethan stays with me. We can do this respectfully, or we can let the court decide. Daniel nodded slowly. Defeated. I'll move out, he said. By tomorrow. He packed that night. Suitcases thudded softly against the walls. Drawers opened and closed. The sound of a life being dismantled room by room. At the door, he paused. I love you, he said hoarsely. Melissa didn't turn around. The engine faded into the night. Michael called the next day. It's done, he said. Contracts signed. Sophie's starting therapy. She's fragile, but she'll recover. Thank you for telling her the truth, Melissa said. You did the hard part, he replied. You chose honesty. That evening, Melissa sat on the bed and finally cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough to let 17 years go. Autumn folded quietly into winter. The divorce moved faster than Melissa expected. Daniel didn't contest anything. Maybe guilt made him cooperative. Maybe exhaustion. Or maybe, deep down, he understood there was nothing left to fight for. The townhouse stayed with Melissa and Ethan. The savings were split. Custody was clear. When the judge stamped the final papers, Melissa felt no triumph, only a strange stillness. As if a long, exhausting noise had finally stopped. Daniel moved into his lakeside cabin and tried to rebuild his business from the ground up. Fewer clients. Fewer employees. Fewer calls returned. Consequences arrived slowly, then all at once. Ethan spoke to his father on weekends. Polite. Distant. The kind of distance that hurt more than anger ever could. Melissa never interfered. But she didn't pretend anymore either. Some things, once broken, don't return to their original shape. Michael stayed in touch. At first, it was practical, paperwork, loose ends, shared obligations that still echoed after the collapse. Then it became coffee. Short conversations. Neutral ground. And slowly, something else. He was careful. Never rushed. Never crossed invisible lines. He listened more than he spoke. When Melissa talked, he didn't try to fix her, he simply stayed present. One evening, as they sat on a quiet patio watching city lights flicker on, Michael said gently, "You don't have to be strong with me." Melissa realized how long she'd been waiting to hear that. They didn't call it anything for a while. They just were. Sophie asked to meet Melissa in the spring. She looked younger than her age. Softer. Wiser in a way no one should have to be so early. "I wanted to thank you," Sophie said quietly. "For telling the truth. Even when it hurt." Melissa took her hand. Truth hurts once. Lies hurt every day. Sophie smiled faintly. "I know that now." They parted without bitterness. Only understanding. By summer, Melissa's life felt whole again. Not the same. But honest. Ethan laughed more. Brought friends home. Talked about college. About the future. Michael helped him with science projects and took him to soccer games, not as a replacement, never that, but as a steady presence. One night, as they sat together on the porch, Ethan said casually, "You know, I like him. He makes you happier." Melissa blinked back tears she hadn't expected. That was enough. And Daniel? One afternoon, months later, he saw them. Pure coincidence. A cafe window. Melissa. Ethan. Michael. They were laughing. Michael's arm rested easily around Melissa's shoulders. Not possessive. Not performative. Just right. Ethan leaned in, animated, alive. A family, not the one Daniel had lost, but the one that had grown after him. Melissa looked up. Their eyes met. There was no anger in hers. No regret. Only distance. Daniel turned away. For the first time, he understood. This wasn't punishment. It was consequence. Melissa slept peacefully that night. No warnings. No omens. No fear of what morning might bring. Just the quiet certainty that honesty, once chosen, changes everything. And that sometimes, losing everything is the only way to finally find what matters.